The wilderness is the last great mystery of the American continent. It is vast, beautiful, and utterly indifferent to human life. We call these places national parks, protected sanctuaries of nature, but the evidence suggests that they might, in fact, be someone else's territory, a hunting ground where the rules of civilization, physics, and even logic simply cease to exist. Tonight, we look into the shadows of the nation's most sacred lands, from the giant redwoods to the jagged peaks of the Sierras, and explore the terrifying possibility that the things that disappear are being taken not by accident, but by design, tracked by objects and entities that defy our understanding. The first thread of this terrifying pattern begins not with a monster, but with the cold, hard data of unexplained missing persons cases. Hey friends, you're in Dreamcatcher Stories, your cozy corner for stories that got lost along the way. Tell me, where are you watching from, and what time is it there for you? Hit me up in the comments and tell me how this one hits you. Now, let's get sneaky and peek behind the curtain. We start our journey high in the mountains of California, near Yosemite National Park, a place celebrated for its sheer granite cliffs and sublime valleys. But Yosemite holds a dark secret. It is a nexus for inexplicable disappearances. The cases of people vanishing within this park, and others like it, share characteristics that defy conventional search and rescue logic. Victims, who are often experienced hikers, hunters, or even park employees, disappear quickly and completely, sometimes right off the trail in broad daylight. Searches involving hundreds of personnel and advanced technology find nothing. No tracks, no struggle, no evidence of animal predation. The buildup of unease begins when authorities note the bizarre circumstances of the recovery, or lack thereof. Victims, if they are found at all, are often located miles away from where they vanished, in areas that have already been searched repeatedly, and in terrain that would have been impossible for them to navigate alone or in their state of dress. Small children, for instance, have been found at extreme high altitudes, far above the tree line, without shoes or coats, showing no sign of having walked the distance themselves. The main conflict in these national park disappearances is the consistent presence of unexplained high-altitude removal. It is as if the victims were taken vertically, lifted straight out of the environment. Search dogs frequently lose the scent at a sudden, clean break, often at the base of a boulder or a tree, as though the person simply ceased to exist at that precise location. This leads us to the terrifying question: if the environment cannot explain the disappearance, what airborne force can? The answer, or perhaps the deepest point of confusion, lies on the northwestern coast, in the remote, moss-laden quiet of the Olympic National Park, Washington. This area, famed for its ancient rainforests and rugged coastline, has been the backdrop for decades of UAP sightings. Sightings that often coincide with military operations and the presence of immense silent entities. Local residents, Coast Guard pilots, and even park rangers have reported seeing massive, silent, triangular or V-shaped objects moving with unnerving slowness over the park's dense, protected interior. These objects exhibit no conventional navigation lights, make no sound, and seem to utilize the vast canopy as a cover for their movements. One chilling incident reported by multiple witnesses involved a ranger patrolling the high-altitude regions near Mount Olympus. He described observing a large, metallic object hovering silently above a remote basin, a known area for historically strange disappearances. The object emitted no sound, and when he attempted to track it with his binoculars, it performed a violent, instantaneous change in direction, moving from a complete standstill to an impossible speed in less than a second, confirming that this was not a conventional aircraft. The twist for the national park mystery is the undeniable correlation. The same high altitude, isolated areas, that exhibit the most inexplicable human disappearances are also the most frequent zones for UAP activity. It suggests that the phenomenon responsible for the vanishing hikers is not accidental or terrestrial. It is an intelligent, high-tech operation utilizing the planet's vast, uninhabited wilderness as a staging or collection area. We move now to a place where myth and UAP encounters are irrevocably intertwined. Mount Shasta, California. Mount Shasta is an immense, visually arresting volcano, steeped in indigenous legends. For centuries, local tribes have warned that the mountain is sacred, guarded by powerful, non-human entities. In the 20th century, this ancient mythology was updated with a modern, technological context. Mount Shasta has become a notorious nexus for extreme UAP activity. Witnesses frequently report seeing brilliantly colored lights emerging from or disappearing into the mountain itself, suggesting the existence of vast, internal caverns or an underground base. These aren't just lights. These are structured objects performing maneuvers that mimic the tic-tac UAP sudden stops, right-angle turns, and impossible acceleration. The conflict Utama, main conflict, is the tension between human investigation and the mountain's resistance. Investigative teams, drawn by the high frequency of anomalous events, have experienced baffling equipment failures, disorientation, and inexplicable physical symptoms the closer they get to the summit. It's as though the mountain is actively defending a secret. Local legend, embraced by some UAP theorists, claims that Mount Shasta is home to an advanced, subterranean race known as the Lemurians, who maintain a technologically superior civilization beneath the surface, using the mountain's natural energy field to conceal their vast operations, and their vehicles are the UAPs that residents see emerging from the peaks. This is the ultimate cryptid, UAP, crossover, the ancient myth of the mountain, guarded by invisible beings, now armed with advanced interstellar technology. The climax is the sheer persistence of the phenomena. Decades of sightings, dating back to the 1,940 seconds, show a clear, persistent presence. The evidence points not to temporary visitors, but to a long-term, possibly permanent, presence of non-human intelligence, utilizing the mountain as a base of operations, treating the airspace above the park as their private corridor. The mystery deepens when we consider the fourth element of this park pattern, the cryptid entity that often appears at the intersection of UAP sightings and human disappearance. This is the realm of the Sasquatch or Bigfoot in the vast national forests that border these parks. While often treated separately, UAP researchers and missing persons investigators have frequently noted the intersection of these events. Witnesses who report UAP activity sometimes also report sightings of immense, unknown bipedal figures, the unseen hunter, in the same immediate vicinity. The narrative here shifts from technology to biology. The main conflict is the question of what Bigfoot truly is. Is it simply an unknown primate, or is it another piece of the UAP puzzle? Some theories suggest that the Sasquatch entity itself is either a biological unit dropped off by the UAPs, or perhaps even a trans-dimensional being that utilizes the energy fields of the remote wilderness to appear and disappear, explaining the maddening lack of physical evidence despite thousands of reports. One detailed, documented sighting from a national forest ranger described watching a large, hulking figure matching the Sasquatch description, standing near a clearing where a bizarre, silent, reddish light had just been seen ascending into the clouds. The ranger noted that the large figure seemed to be observing the UAP's departure rather than fleeing it, suggesting the two phenomena might be connected. Perhaps the Sasquatch is the silent protector, the ground crew, or simply another victim of the advanced technology utilizing these remote territories. The twist is that the deepest, most terrifying element of the national park mystery is that the wilderness might not be a place of random natural dangers, but a place managed by two separate, non-human intelligences, the technological one operating from the air and the biological one operating on the ground. The entire narrative culminates in the undeniable, terrifying truth that the most protected, most beautiful, and most isolated territories in the United States, our national parks are not merely wild lands preserved for human enjoyment. They function as areas of interest for something else entirely. The unexplained disappearances, the bizarre high-altitude retrievals, the systematic equipment failures, and the constant presence of silent, technologically impossible objects all weave into a single, overwhelming conclusion. The climax is realizing the ultimate purpose of the cover-up. It's not just to hide the UAPs, it is to manage the psychological terror of admitting that vast, beautiful sections of our planet are effectively off-limits to us, monitored by advanced, non-terrestrial or subterranean intelligences that possess the power to take, manipulate, or simply observe us at will. These are not merely stories of lights in the sky. These are stories of control, of territory, and of a boundary we, as a species, are not yet permitted to cross. And there we go, another memory back from the dark. Don't go too far, I've got more mysteries itching to be told. What do you think is the primary force responsible for the high-altitude disappearances in national parks? A subterranean intelligence using UAPs, Mount Shasta theory, or a transdimensional biological entity, Sasquatch, missing 411 theory? Let me know your analysis in the comments below. And if you dare to explore more hidden government secrets, cryptid encounters, and unexplained phenomena in the remote American wilderness, be sure to subscribe to Dreamcatcher Stories and hit that notification bell. Until next time, stay safe and think critically about the shadows. Tentu, saya akan menambahkan 5 kisah UAP, UFO terkenal lainnya, memperluas narasi ke konteks global dan insiden dengan konsekuensi fisik yang serius, sambil memastikan narasi baru ini terhubung secara mulus dengan paragraf penutup sebelumnya. Berikut adalah lanjutan, narasi yang sangat panjang dan detail. The true mystery is not only what they are, but why they continue to appear in our most sensitive airspace, delivering cryptic warnings and baffling our most advanced military minds. The entire narrative culminates in the undeniable, terrifying truth that the most protected, most beautiful, and most isolated territories in the United States, our national parks, are not merely wild lands preserved for human enjoyment. They function as areas of interest for something else entirely, a boundary we, as a species, are not yet permitted to cross. But the territory being claimed by the UAP phenomenon is not limited to mountain peaks and forests. It includes our very air defenses, our physical bodies, and the technology we rely on to survive. The pattern of technological interference is global, consistent, and deeply alarming. We begin this new section in the heart of Europe, where the contact was sudden, physical, and left strange traces. The picturesque lavender fields of Valensole, France, were the unlikely stage for one of the most compelling physical landing cases in UAP history, occurring on the 1st of July 1965. A farmer, Maurice Massa, was working in his field when he heard an unusual whistling sound. He looked up and saw a spherical, egg-shaped object, roughly the size of a small car, resting silently on his field. The main conflict began when Massey approached the object and saw two small entities standing beside it. He described them as about 4 feet tall, humanoid, with large heads and thin limbs, wearing what appeared to be metallic gray jumpsuits. As Massa took a step closer, one of the entities aimed a small, tube-like object at him. The twist was immediate and terrifying. Massa was instantly paralyzed. He stood frozen in the lavender field, unable to move or speak, watching as the entities finished their inspection of the ground. They climbed back into the craft, which then lifted off silently, emitting the same whistling sound, and vanished. When Masse finally recovered his motor functions, the craft was gone. The only evidence was a perfectly circular landing trace, where the craft had rested. The ground hardened like concrete. The area around the landing site was immediately investigated by the French Gendarmerie police. Tests confirmed that the ground was indeed abnormally hard, and for years afterward, the lavender plants in that specific circle refused to grow a permanent scar left by the landing. The Valençol case serves as a perfect example of a UAP leaving undeniable physical evidence and causing temporary, focused incapacitation. The pattern of physical traces continued in France years later, culminating in the Trans-en-Provence incident of 1981, often cited by analysts as having the strongest physical evidence in UAP history. A resident named Renato Nicolai reported seeing a large, saucer-shaped object land silently in his field. After about a minute, the object lifted off and departed at incredible speed, leaving behind clear physical marks on the ground. The French Gendarmerie were called in, and they quickly turned the investigation over to Geppen Group for the study of unidentified aerospace phenomena, a civilian and scientific branch of the French space agency, CNES. This is the key difference. This was a scientific, official investigation, not a military cover-up. Scientists collected soil and plant samples from the landing site and compared them to samples taken from areas just outside the landing zone. The climax of the investigation was the laboratory result. The soil samples from the landing zone were abnormally compacted and had been heated to between 600 and 700 degrees Celsius. Furthermore, young shoots of alfalfa plants near the site were damaged, showing chemical changes and damage that were biologically unexplainable by any known heat source or vehicle. The scientific report concluded that something happened on that ground, and that the chemical and thermal disturbances were consistent with being caused by a heavy object heating the area and compacting the soil before taking off rapidly. The Trans-en-Provence case remains a powerful testament to the reality of physical UAP landings, authenticated by government scientists. We return to the United States, far from military bases, to a place where a small-town police officer saw the unthinkable, the Socorro Landing, New Mexico of 1964. Police officer Lonnie Zamora was on patrol when he heard a loud roar and saw a flame descending rapidly into a remote canyon. Initially thinking it was a plane crash, Zamora raced to the scene. What he found was not a wreckage. In the canyon, resting silently on four thin legs, was a small, white, egg-shaped object, smooth and seamless, lacking any windows or doors. Standing near the object were two small figures dressed in white coveralls. As Zamora approached, the figures scrambled into the craft. The object then emitted a loud roar, shot a bluish flame downward, and lifted off at an incredible speed, disappearing over the canyon. The entire encounter lasted mere moments, but the impact was profound. The main conflict was the credibility of the witness. Lonnie Zamora was a respected police officer. Within minutes of the sighting, the FBI and Air Force investigators from Project Blue Book were on the scene. They found clear, undeniable evidence. 4 distinct imprints left by the landing gear and scorched earth where the flame had erupted. Despite intense scrutiny and interrogation, Zamora's story remained consistent. The twist is that the Air Force, unable to find a conventional explanation and having confirmed the physical evidence, had to classify the case as unexplained. The Socorro landing remains one of the most documented and credible single-witness UAP landings in history, challenging the narrative that only fringe witnesses report such events. The UAP phenomenon often intersects with the body, leaving behind agonizing proof. This brings us to the terrifying case of physical injury, the Cash Landrum incident in Texas, 1980. Betty Cash, along with her friend Vicky Landrum and Vicky's grandson, Colby, were driving on a remote road near Huffman, Texas, when they encountered a massive, diamond-shaped object hovering silently just above the tree line. The object was intensely bright, glowing with heat and emitting a powerful roar. The climax was the immediate, devastating physical consequence. As the women watched, the object blasted a sudden, overwhelming wave of heat downward. Cash, the nearest adult, suffered immediate, severe burns and blistering on her face and body. The intensity was so great that the group fled, but not before observing a number of helicopters identified by them as military Chinooks surrounding the object, suggesting an organized military operation was already underway. The twist and tragedy is the aftermath. Cash was rushed to the hospital with third-degree burns and symptoms consistent with acute radiation poisoning. Over the following weeks, both women and the young boy suffered from unexplained hair loss, nausea, lethargy, and skin lesions, all classic signs of radiation exposure. They spent years seeking compensation from the U.S. government, believing the military was responsible for the object or the exposure, but were met with continuous denial, despite overwhelming medical evidence of their injuries. The Cash Landrum case is a sobering, painful reminder of the physical danger inherent in proximity to these unexplained phenomena. Finally, we address the UAP challenge to the ultimate symbol of human power, nuclear armament. This is the chilling Malmstrom AFB incident of 1967. Malmstrom Air Force Base in Montana is one of the most critical military sites in the U.S., housing a large number of Minuteman intercontinental ballistic missiles, ICBMs, in underground silos. The security is absolute. In March 1967, a UAP incident occurred that shook the foundation of national security. Security personnel and launch control officers reported seeing a large, glowing, reddish object hovering silently over the ICBM silos. The main conflict began seconds after the object appeared. All the Minuteman missiles in the silos immediately went offline, becoming instantly inoperable. The security systems failed. The missiles could not be launched. The pattern repeated at another nearby silo a week later. The simultaneous failure of highly complex, redundant nuclear weapon systems caused by the simple, silent presence of an unknown object is the ultimate twist in the UAP phenomenon. The military and intelligence agencies launched an immediate, high-level investigation. The conclusion was terrifying. No conventional explanation could account for the simultaneous failure of the ICBMs. The Malmstrom incident proved that whatever these objects are, they possess the technological capability to neutralize humanity's most powerful weapons at will, demonstrating a level of technological superiority that is, frankly, terrifying. These 5 global encounters, from the physical traces in French lavender fields and the medical tragedy in Texas, to the technological neutralization of nuclear missiles at Malmstrom, underscore a terrifying reality. The UAP phenomenon is not random. It is intelligent, physical, global, and utterly non-permissive. It dictates the terms of engagement, leaving behind scars, scientific paradoxes, and the profound, enduring mystery of who is truly in control of our planet's skies. And there we go, another memory back from the dark. Don't go too far, I've got more mysteries itching to be told. Which incident poses the most direct threat to human sovereignty? The neutralization of nuclear weapons at Malmstrom, or the physical incapacitation and radiation injury in the Cash Landrum case? Let me know your analysis in the comments below. And if you dare to explore more high-stakes secrets and global unexplained phenomena, be sure to subscribe to Dreamcatcher Stories and hit that notification bell. Until next time, stay safe and think critically about the shadows.